On the morning of November 8, 2002, a chilling call came into emergency services. A woman claimed her neighbor had been attacked by an unknown man. She didn't leave her name, and her voice was calm, almost too calm. When police arrived at the Stamford, Connecticut residence, they discovered the body of Annalisa Raimondo, lifeless, surrounded by scattered belongings. But something felt off. The entire house had been meticulously cleaned. Almost too clean. No signs of forced entry. No fingerprints out of place. It was as if someone had gone through great lengths to erase their presence. As investigators began digging, what they uncovered wasn't just a murder, it was the unraveling of a love triangle so twisted, so layered in deception, that it would take years to uncover the full truth. At the center of this web, Sheila Davalloo. Born in Iran in 1969, Sheila and her family fled the country's unrest in the late 1970s and started anew in New York. With a background in biochemistry, Sheila seemed to be a driven, intelligent woman. She married Farid Mousavi, but during her graduate studies, she began an affair with a colleague named Paul Christos. When Farid discovered the betrayal, he filed for divorce, clearing the way for Sheila to marry Paul in 2000. From the outside, their life appeared stable. Sheila had landed a promising job at Purdue Pharma in Stamford, while Paul worked at a Cornell University campus. But Sheila grew restless. Bored. Their relationship had fallen into a dull routine. Then came Nelson Sessler. Tall, successful, and charismatic, Nelson was everything Sheila felt her life lacked. They met in the summer of 2001, and sparks flew instantly. What Nelson didn't know was that Sheila was already married. But that didn't stop her. She spun an elaborate web of lies to keep her double life hidden, telling Paul that her mentally unstable brother would visit and needed privacy. During those times, Paul would help her pack and leave the home so the imaginary brother could stay. In reality, it was Nelson who would visit. And when Nelson was around, Sheila told him all sorts of stories to keep her marriage a secret. But Nelson's attention began to drift. Soon, he was drawn to another colleague, Annalisa Raimondo. Annalisa, brilliant and beautiful, was everything Sheila wasn't. With degrees from Harvard and Columbia, Annalisa had earned her place as one of the most respected researchers at Purdue Pharma. Her relationship with Nelson began quietly, but by late 2002, they had moved in together and were openly a couple. Sheila's jealousy turned obsessive. She crafted an elaborate lie about a friend named Melissa involved in a love triangle, asking Paul, unwittingly, for advice. She even used his night vision goggles and listening devices to spy on Nelson. Then came the more disturbing actions, buying a lock-picking kit and following Nelson on a trip to Las Vegas, arranging it so they'd sit together on the flight back, making the meeting appear like a chance encounter. And then, everything escalated. On the morning of November 8, while Nelson was at work, Sheila entered Annalisa's home. There was no forced entry, Annalisa likely knew her. Between 10:30 a.m. and noon, Sheila stabbed her romantic rival, then calmly washed the blood from her hands and disappeared. Hours later, she used a payphone at a nearby restaurant to report the crime anonymously. No name. No details. Just enough to trigger an investigation. When detectives Tom Gent and Greg Holt arrived, they found signs of a struggle, objects knocked over, a small bloodstain, but no clue as to who had done it. Nelson arrived soon after, emotionless and oddly calm. He became their primary suspect, but surveillance footage and lack of forensic evidence cleared him. Still, the trail was cold. The mysterious caller left no trace, and the only physical clue, a tiny trace of blood in the sink, could not yet be linked to anyone. In the months that followed, Sheila did what no one expected, she comforted Nelson. The death of his girlfriend had devastated him, and Sheila used it as an opportunity to slide back into his life. Romantic getaways followed, but Nelson wasn't serious about her. Sheila noticed. And it crushed her. Then, something terrifying happened. On March 23, 2003, Sheila seemed cheerful. She got her nails done, called friends, and invited Paul to a special dinner at home. That night, she suggested they spice up their relationship: blindfolds, handcuffs, a guessing game with random objects. But the game had a sinister twist. As Paul sat restrained, Sheila stabbed him twice in the chest. Bleeding and confused, Paul begged for help. Sheila claimed she'd call 911 but instead phoned Nelson, canceling a meeting. When Paul insisted again, Sheila finally agreed to drive him to the hospital, but pulled into a dark corner of the parking lot and stabbed him again. A bystander saw the attack and rushed to help. Paul was hospitalized, barely surviving. Sheila was arrested at the scene. In her initial statement, she claimed it had all been an accident, that Paul had asked her to check for bleeding. But investigators reviewed her phone records. There was no emergency call. Only a call to Nelson. Paul's testimony shattered Sheila's lies. He described everything: the blindfold, the game, the stabbings. When Nelson was summoned by police, he was stunned to learn Sheila was married, and had nearly killed her husband. But then a dark realization hit him: if she was capable of this, what else had she done? Suddenly, Annalisa's murder didn't seem so distant. Nelson contacted investigators and offered to help. Over the next several months, he wore a wire, recording conversations with Sheila for the Stamford police. In one meeting at a fast food restaurant, Nelson casually asked about Annalisa. Sheila claimed they'd only met in an elevator years ago. But police had enough. Sheila was charged with the attempted murder of Paul and sentenced to 25 years in prison. During her incarceration, she wrote Nelson multiple letters, rambling poems, declarations of love, and disturbing admissions. In one letter, she wrote that had she known he and Annalisa were living together, she would have behaved differently. 3 years later, a breakthrough came. The blood from Annalisa's bathroom sink was retested. The DNA matched Sheila. In 2012, she was charged with Annalisa's murder and, choosing to represent herself, went to trial. Despite support from a public defender, Sheila couldn't shake the overwhelming evidence. She was found guilty and sentenced to an additional 50 years in prison. She won't be eligible for parole until 2079, when she'll be 110 years old. Still, Sheila insists she's innocent. In a 2017 interview with Piers Morgan, she denied killing Annalisa and claimed her DNA was a result of cross-contamination. She admitted to attacking Paul, but framed it as a moment of emotional breakdown, not attempted murder. But for those who know the case, the lies, the obsession, the cruelty, her words ring hollow. What began as a love triangle ended in bloodshed, betrayal, and 2 ruined lives. And at the center of it all was Sheila Davalloo, a woman whose obsession knew no bounds. If you want more stories, hit the like button, share it and subscribe for more.